What's up everybody, this is Master Ian Gamer, and as I'm sure many of you have already seen, Blizzard tweeted out yesterday the first major teaser building up to the release of Hero 27. And in this teaser are a bunch of juicy little clues and details, which I believe may be hinting at not necessarily someone brand new, but rather someone who we've already had named before. So let's jump on in and start analyzing. Real quick though, if this is your first time on my channel, then don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you'll never miss a future one of my Overwatch videos. Now let's get back to the new hero. There are three major things that stand out to me in this after action report. They are White Dome, Emre Sarioglu, which I'm sure I'm still mispronouncing, and the incident with Torbjorn discussed in the second half. However, we're going to look at Emre specifically, since this seems like the greatest indicator as for identifying Hero 27. So, Private First Class Emre Sarioglu is only mentioned once in this summary, and isn't described as doing anything specific, other than simply being on the mission. At first, it seems that there is little we can determine regarding them and their role. However, I've got some suspicions which I'll get to a little later on. Emre is a male Turkish name, which is indicative of them possibly being a new hero. Blizzard tries to keep the cast of Overwatch diverse, and given that we have yet to have a hero of Turkish origin, this seems very plausible. Furthermore, since they are most likely going to be male, the fact that 4 out of the past 5 released heroes have been female lends even more to this possibility. However, the other thing we must keep in mind is that Emre being the next hero would be very straightforward, which isn't usually how Blizzard handles these kind of things. Last year, during the build up to Orisa, Blizzard did something very similar by teasing us with Efi, who ultimately ended up being the real hero's creator. So it's not only entirely possible, but also fairly likely that Emre is only going to play a similar role in that he has ties to the real Hero 27, but he himself isn't the playable hero. We are almost definitely going to be getting more information over the next few days, which will either confirm or deny this. But in the meantime, let's see if we can't beat Blizzard to the punch by figuring it out ourselves. Now, regarding the many theories which have been floating around lately for Hero 27, I'm certain this post blows most of them out of the water, given that this after-action report is talking about something very closely tied to the Overwatch organization and took place in the past when Ana, Reinhardt, and Torbjorn were all active members. I think Hammond, Junker Queen, Ares, and Sanjay can all be crossed off the list. The only major one who I think still has any chance at all is Liao, given that he would presumably have been active with Overwatch during this time as well. So for now, I'm gonna place him over in the maybe corner, all by his lonesome. As for Emre himself, well, we may actually know more about him than we first realized. What if the Emre mentioned here is actually Ray? I have to credit T-Dog Gaming for first suggesting this idea to me, but I do think that it's actually incredibly likely. For those of you who are unfamiliar, Ray is a character who has been specifically mentioned by both Jeff Kaplan and lead Overwatch writer Michael Chu, and is apparently the person who pilots the Orca dropships. I'll analyze what exactly has been said about him in a bit, but first let's see how this could tie into the teaser. Emre, while not a particularly hard to pronounce name, could be easily abbreviated to just Ray, which might be likely amongst military personnel who need to be able to communicate quickly and concisely. Furthermore, since Ray is a dropship pilot, this means that he is in fact associated with the Overwatch organization, and could explain his presence in the White Dome operation. As I said, his role on the mission isn't specified, although we do know that they were deployed, meaning that an Orca dropship quite possibly was involved. Being only a private, is it possible that he was involved simply as the ride in and out of there? This could then answer why he isn't mentioned as doing anything during the mission itself, but rather just as one of the personnel involved. Without much more to consider in this post, let's move back now to what the Blizzard devs themselves have said regarding Ray. This name was first mentioned by Jeff Kaplan on September 28th in response to a question regarding who piloted the dropships. After the fact, Michael Chu elaborated a bit more regarding Ray by saying that he could grow a mean beard, he is in the trenches every day, and that Ray is in fact his first name. Now, these tidbits of information are incredibly vague, and don't tell us much of anything, but let's see if we can't discern at least something out of them. So the first thing to note is the date that Ray's name was first mentioned. September 28th, first of all, is only about a month after the Lijiang Tower wheelchair was added, although I don't think that necessarily has anything to do with Hero 27 at this point. It's always worth considering. But anyways, Ray was first mentioned 5 months prior to now, which means, assuming the new hero comes out within the next week or two, that Blizzard definitely would have known at that point who the 27th hero would be, and quite possibly even their name and backstory. If this is the case, then Jeff is certainly the king of smooth name drops, and we as the Overwatch community should be ashamed of ourselves for not having been even more suspicious over the past several months. Anyways, moving on now to what Chu has said about Ray, the fact that he can grow a mean beard might lend towards him being the Turkish Emre, since the Turks are no strangers to men's facial hair. As for Ray being in the trenches every day, this was a response to a question regarding whether or not Ray has ever seen actual combat. I suppose this could be indicating that he's currently involved in combat, but at the same time, it also kind of sounds like song lyrics. I tried looking up whether Chu was just quoting something here, but I couldn't find anything. So if nothing else, it seemingly means that Ray is a busy guy, and apparently is combat experienced. This could of course be pointing at Emre again, given what was described in the report, but then wasn't he possibly just the pilot? Again, there's not much really to work off of here. The last comment on Ray is probably the most interesting. Chu states that Ray's first name is Ray, not Emre. This one actually seems to be pointing towards the two people not being the same person. But what if Emre just changed his name sometime between now and back when he was a part of Overwatch? Okay, so maybe the evidence for this connection isn't particularly strong, but hey, Jeff did say that Hero 27 is a surprise that has perhaps been hinted at, so maybe Ray was the hint he was referring to. I don't know, but even if Ray and Emre are the same person, that doesn't even mean that he's Hero 27. As I said, Orisa's build-up primarily featured Ify, so Ray or Emre could play a similar role for the real hero. I expect there will be many more clues coming over the next few days, and I wouldn't be surprised if the very next one proves this whole theory wrong. But I think it is an interesting possibility to consider, so let me know your own thoughts down in the comments below. If you've got evidence to either support or oppose this theory, I'd love to hear it. And otherwise, thank you all for watching. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and turn on notifications to keep up with all my future Overwatch content. This is Master Ian Gamer signing off, and the hype train is already well on its way to Hero 27, so until next time, have a great day.